Hey everyone, what's happening? I'm here today with a very special guest, none other than Erik Espinosa himself. He's in Canada right now. He's one of the top boutique cigar makers, making millions of cigars annually, such as 601 Blue, Knuckle Sandwich, one of the most successful celebrity cigars of all time. Erik, thank you so much for coming here.
Thanks for having me, my brother. Appreciate it.
So just give us a bit of a background on how you got started in cigars and how has that evolved from where you were at to what you're doing now.
It's funny, man. One of the things I hated the most in life was cigars. And you asked me why. My dad, being Cuban, my dad's still with us, 89 years old, smokes 10 cigars a day, and eats about three of them. I know you don't believe me. But look, I'm a chewer. As you know,
Yeah.
I'm chewing the same cigar. I met you on
The other day on
Monday,
Monday,
and,
yeah.
and today is a Friday. But he would walk by us and with a cigar, it looked like a paintbrush because he would chew it all the time and just go by and pass it around the lips, and you'd like spit and all that. I think he didn't want us to smoke cigars. I didn't know. And then one time he was like, he threw a party. I was 14 years old, and my brother and I, we stole some cigars and beer and started drinking and smoking. And I kind of enjoyed it. And then every time he threw a party, we would steal cigars from my
How
dad.
old were you at
Like
that time?
14,
At
like
14.
14, yeah. And
Yeah.
then I got out of high school, and I just picked up, and I started smoking and smoking and smoking. And then one day I was hanging out at a cigar shop, and a guy walks in, and he wants a rep from Florida for cigars, and I said I'll try it out. I took the job, and that was 25 years ago, and here we are today.
Yeah.
I've done just about everything there is to do in this industry. I don't know everything, but I've been an
Yeah.
in-house rep,
Yeah.
independent broker, a sales manager,
Yeah.
now a manufacturer. So here we are.
I think Eric, you've built quite the reputation as a cigar hustler throughout the industry. I remember once my brother and I traveled to Nicaragua, we met your blender Hector Alfonso, just telling us that there's only a handful of people in this industry that could sell at the magnitude Eric sells at. And I was always curious to kind of see what he was talking about. And now that I've met you with that, that energy and that passion, I kind of see what he's talking about.
Well, I mean, look, if you find me somebody who likes to lose, I'm gonna show you a loser. I don't like to
Fair
lose
enough.
in
Yeah.
nothing I do in life,
Yeah.
and being that having that sales in my blood, the early bird catches the worm. I would always get up early and hit the streets, and because I couldn't and I wouldn't allow my competition, to get to a store before me. Because
Yeah.
listen, it's a mom and pop industry, and retailers have so much money to spend, and if I get there before the other guy, then I got more of your money. That's the way I looked at it.
Fair enough.
And I implemented that just and with my company, and I tell my reps, they have to get up early, they have to, hit the stores, knock on doors, and
Yeah.
try to get that business.
And now we see you at a highly successful level with Espinosa Cigars. Kind of almost any shop you walk into, you got to have Espinosa Cigars. But it wasn't always like that. You had obstacles, you had lessons. You
Dude.
started off, like you mentioned earlier, a sales rep for brands such as, Drew Estate, Rocky Patel, and teaming up with your old business partner. And then, you guys split, and then you finally established your own brand. What do you think was the most significant obstacle that taught you the most valuable lesson for your success today?
Well, it was two. It was the government and my competition. A lot of people didn't want to see me succeed.
Wow.
Yeah, and without mentioning names, they put every obstacle that they could in front of me, and little did they know that it didn't matter. It didn't matter what kind of brick wall they build. I'm going through that brick wall. You know what I mean? Um, and the government, of course, we have our issues in the United States also. With tobacco, like what you guys have here. It's always been an obstacle.
Yeah.
But I am a people person. I understand a long time ago that this is industry is based on relationships, and people smoke cigars from people who they like.
Yeah.
When I do events, I don't sit on my ass and, oh, I'm Erik Espinosa, cigar maker. No, dude, you get there, you engage. You got to engage with people and talk to people, and
Yeah.
and there's a lot of great cigars out there. Why should I pick your cigar? And
Fair
and I
enough.
learned a long time ago that when you engage with people and you shake hands, and they're gonna respond. And, oh, I met Erik Espinosa. He's a great guy, and
Yeah.
and you should try one of his cigars. And it's word of mouth, dude.
Yeah.
There's no newspaper, there's no magazine, there's nothing greater than word of mouth, and it spreads the word all over. And that's how I built my business.
Word of mouth, one of the strongest forms of marketing,
No doubt.
without question.
No doubt.
And the way you're so personable within the industry has led to building successful relationships with Guy Fieri. Sorry if I mispronounced his name. I understand that he's
It's Fee.
particular.
He is. It's Fee and then Eddie. Fee Eddie.
Fieri,
There you
Guy
go.
Fieri,
Yeah.
celebrity chef. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure a lot of us know who he is. And, in all honesty, I feel like a lot of celebrity cigars would come out. They're hot for a minute, they're not hot anymore. This one is one of those exceptions. I feel like Knuckle Sandwich, for those who don't know, we currently have them available in the natural and a Maduro. The Maduro one just dropped 2 weeks ago. This is the collaboration with the celebrity chef. But before we get into these two, I want to talk about how that pre-COVID handshake deal came about and what, like how do you guys get from point A to point B?
So, a mutual friend of ours who lives in California gave me a call one day. It was on like a Wednesday, and he tells me, "Hey, listen, I live where Guy Fieri lives. You know who Guy Fieri is?" I said, "Of course I know who he is." He says he wants to talk to you. I said, "Me?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Okay." I said, "Give him my number, I guess, if that's what you're asking me." He says, "Yeah, of course. Have him give me a call." And he did. He called me about 5 minutes later.
Yeah,
He called me and he says, we started talking. He says, "Are you in Miami?" I said, "I am." He says, "Can we meet tomorrow?
yeah,
I'm in South Beach." And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "I'm filming. I got like 30 minutes. Is there any way you can come by?" I said, "Absolutely." So I get there. And I've dealt with celebrities before, and I get there, they're always late and all that. And I think our meeting was at 10, and I get there like at 9:45. But like at 9:50, he shows up with a tequila bottle.
yeah.
And he hands me over a bottle of tequila, and I hand him a cigar, a cutter, and a lighter. And then he looks at me, he gives me the cutter back because I don't use a cutter. I bite my cigars.
Yeah.
And then he looks at me, "I don't need a cutter." And I look at him, I said, "You did your research on me." And he says, "Well, yeah, but I really don't use a cutter." I said, "All right, cool." He lights a cigar. It was a Laranja. I never forget, there was a Laranja, but the orange one, the one with the orange label, it's the Brazilian Habano wrapper. So
Yeah.
he's smoking it, and then he wants me to make him a cigar, and I told him no. And he says, "Why not?" He says, "Because you're a celebrity, like similar to what you said. You know,
Celebrity
a
cigars.
celebrity, just because it's got your name on it doesn't mean it's going to sell." And he goes, "Well, why not?" I said, "Because nobody does anything about it." He says, "A lot of these people have tried," and I named them some names without naming names, celebrities that have tried it, and it doesn't work. They do absolutely nothing about it. He says, "Well, I did my research on you, but apparently you didn't do your research on me." And I said, "Okay, fair enough. Explain it to me." "Look, I own a tequila company with Sammy Hagar, and all I do is promote, 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 promote." He's telling me. I said, "Okay, fair enough." I said, "Okay, so if we do this. Um, we have a trade show, an annual trade show. Can you
PCA?
PCA?" And I
Right.
said, "Can you make it?"
Yeah.
I didn't say PCA because I know he didn't know what the hell PCA.
Right, right.
"Can you make it?" It's sometimes New Orleans, sometimes my Vegas, and he says, "Absolutely." I said, "Okay, can we follow you on Diners, Driving, and Dives?" He goes, "What do you mean? When you're done filming, can we do an event at whatever city you're at?" He goes, "Absolutely." I said, and this is a bad deal for me, but we're going to split the profits. Okay. And if I have to get an attorney, I'm not gonna do it. Okay. I'm a man of my word. I look people straight in the eye and I shake their hand and I go to work. So by me saying that, I knew that if I extended my hand, it was, I was gonna put him like in a situation, because if a man extends out his hand, you gotta shake
You
his
gotta
hand.
shake it. So it's like an awkward type
Correct.
situation you put it in.
So
Yeah.
I spit it in my hand and I extended my hand. And he looks at me, and and then
He's like, "Whoa, what am I
he
supposed to do
he spit it
here?"
in his hand, and we shook hands.
Yeah.
And as we're swapping spit, he looks at me and says, "Why'd you spit in your hand?" I said, "I don't fucking know. I saw it in a movie one time. I, I really didn't know." And he looks at me and says, my dad does that all the time." And I said, "Well, let's go to work," and I said, and then let's go to work. And then I hanged out with him all day Saturday, which was the next day. And then Tuesday, COVID hit,
Yeah.
and then that's why it was so delayed,
Right, right.
but the beauty of it was that we made samples because we couldn't go to Nicaragua, and it was a clusterfuck, bro, because of all the COVID and all that shit. But we made the Habano and the Maduro. We made like 10 blends of each, and I sent it to him, and I told him to write notes,
Yeah.
write notes,
Yeah.
and he picked the very same one on both blends that we had picked, which we thought it was the best one. So I said, all
Wow.
right, this guy knows what he's doing. You know what I mean? He's a cigar
Wow.
smoker. He knows what he's doing. And I tell you one thing, man. Um, for those who know me, know that I'm a man of my word.
Yeah.
I don't back down for nothing. If I give you my word, I do it, or I'll die trying. And that man's exactly like me. He's never ever let me down. People, oh, I have an event on so and so place. No, no. So we're sitting in Miami Beach. This was about it was in February, and it was the big smoke, but it was a little for the cigar aficionado. But it's a thing they do on a rooftop in South Beach, and maybe I don't know. I think they could fit like 400 or 500 people there. And,
Right,
and
right.
and he's sick as a dog.
Yeah.
And I look at him and I said, "Bro, get the hell out of here, bro. Go." He looks at me. He takes his glasses off and he looks at me. He says, "Espinosa, I gave them a word that I was going to be here, and I gave you my word I was going to be here. I'm not going anywhere. As soon as I'm done out of here, I'm gonna go take some some pills and I'm going to bed. But I will be here for the duration."
And this was a event
It was an event in South
in
Beach. It
South
was
Beach.
it was yeah, it
Yeah.
was a Cigar Aficionado, the
Oh
magazine.
yeah, the big smoke they put on.
It's not
Is
really a
it?
big smoke, but it's something like in a smaller scale
Right,
because they
right,
don't
right.
have the venue there. But
Right.
it runs together with the food and wine festivals.
Right. Oh, okay, yeah. So that's
Yeah,
the collaboration type thing, right?
right, right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I feel like, once you got to work together, it's always interesting to see like how somebody who is a Food Network star could kind of impose his knowledge with, food into what
It's
makes a proper
remarkable.
cigar blend.
It,
Like, how would you describe his palate? And like, Knuckle Sandwich is obviously very fitting for a man of his type of, celebrity status.
because here's the difference. I can't say we made
Yeah.
a cigar that happens to be for a celebrity. We didn't make a celebrity cigar, you
Yeah.
know. Um,
That's an interesting distinction, actually.
we knew what we were doing. I knew that it's never worked, ever, ever. No celebrity has ever worked in our industry. Excuse me. And I couldn't fail. I don't like to lose in life. I told you at the beginning of the podcast, if you find somebody who likes to lose, I'll show you a loser. I couldn't fail in this. So we did it. But the reason why it's successful is a lot because of him, because he's done everything that we have asked him to do.
Yeah.
Okay. And he does it right. He does it right. And I'm amazed at how many people know him. And I'm amazed. It doesn't matter where you're from, your background, where were you born. It doesn't matter your age. When I with him, you got kids that are 10 years old and people that are 80 something years old. They all love him. Everybody loves him. And I know why. And he's no different than what he is on TV.
And I think another part of, one of the many factors what makes Espinosa Cigar successful is your willingness to sort of delegate responsibilities and sort of allow people to thrive in their role. And I understand you're a family forward company. You have your son, Erik Jr.
Yes,
He's involved, right?
absolutely.
And what are some of his responsibilities? And like, to what point are you comfortable with like him, sort of being on his own without you sort of overseeing what he's doing?
Well, Joseph, the biggest like I started telling you in the beginning, we had a lot of obstacles.
Yeah.
So I think I'm one of the few fathers in the world that took their son out of college. You know how every parent has a
Wow.
dream to become a doctor, a lawyer. I said, listen, you ain't smart enough to be no lawyer. You ain't smart enough to be no
Ooh.
doctor. Neither was I. You know, I said, I said, but
Damn,
my
that's
son,
hilarious.
but my son is sharp. It takes a special person to be a lawyer. Let's be honest. It take a special person to be a
I
doctor.
feel like a lot of people are like delusional when they say like I'm gonna be like, some specialist type thing, right?
You're gonna be whatever mentally your
Yeah,
capacity you have.
exactly.
You understand? Because you gotta have so much patience if you're a doctor,
They don't even know what they're getting into when they say that.
correct,
Yeah,
correct. And it
yeah,
takes, and the truth is, it takes a special person to be that.
yeah, 100%.
I wasn't smart enough to be a doctor, a lawyer, nothing like that. And
Yeah,
a lot of shit is hereditary. You know what I'm saying? But my son is very sharp. So when we started the company, I really didn't know what he was going to do. I knew what I was going to do. I knew my role,
yeah.
and we had to add to the puzzle. So as time went, he ran the warehouse, because I was traveling, and he would make sure that the shipping guy did his job and this and that and all that stuff. But now, as time's gone by, he not only runs the warehouse, he's also been the designer of the company, the marketer of the company. For those who know our company, we did that the warhead that he's done.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
sixth province, the brands of the sixth province that we done, the packaging. He loses every year. He comes in second place every year to General, but General is the biggest company in our industry, who spends like $400 on a box of Cohiba, that's got glitter and lights and all the
Hmm.
hoopla. You understand? And with us, with our budget, my son comes in second place all the time, which is really first place the way I look at it, because we don't spend the money that they do to create that. No knock
That's a statement.
no knock on General, but
Yeah,
what he's developed, but the truth is that him or I, or even Guy, I gotta add Guy to that.
absolutely. Yeah,
We don't cut corners in life.
absolutely.
Whatever we do, we either do it the right way or we don't do it at all.
Yeah,
Like, we give away a lot of t-shirts, and the t-shirts we give away are expensive because we use say next level shirts that are good quality. I
material
can't
quality.
use a cheap material, because what's going to happen? Nobody's going to wear it.
Right
Do
on.
you want to wear a t-shirt with you know what I'm saying? Nobody's going to wear it, so we
No
spend
doubt.
money on it.
I mean, it's a
You know?
reflection of the standard that your brand lives up to as well,
Correct,
right? Like you're not trying
correct,
to get something
correct,
that lasts only a few months or
correct,
whatever.
correct.
And as you said, like understanding what is like what makes your company successful is, knowing that Erik is really good at your son Erik. I'm referring to really
Correct.
good at the marketing, the creativity,
Correct.
the warheads packaging, we're referring to all that stuff. And delegating other stuff, like for example, you make certain blends at AJ's factory to
Right.
ensure high quality because you just mentioned you don't like to cut corners. And if that's what it takes to secure high quality tobacco for very specific blends that you're working with, of course, I feel like that's the best course of action to go through.
No doubt.
Yeah,
People ask me, listen, since you have Lazona and your own factory, why would you use somebody else to make some of your
yeah,
cigars?
yeah,
And look, over there, it's like if you buy 20 bales of good wrapper, they want to stick you with 10 that's not so good. And what are you going to do with that?
yeah.
Again, like I told you, you know, I don't cut corners. So, but you have to use these bales. What are you going to do?
Yeah,
So I went to buy some tobacco one time from AJ, and he goes, "Dude, you want my best rappers and all that?" I said, "Yeah, that's why we're friends." And then he looks at me and said, "Well, let me make it for you." I said, "Okay, fair enough. If you want to make it for me, let's work on a price." So now what that did was alleviate me from trying to deal with all these people
having to secure
that
different
correct. And
tobaccos
now,
and stuff.
it,
Yeah,
it costs us a little bit more money, of course it does,
yeah,
but it is what it is. And it just alleviated me from going and buying all this
yeah.
getting all this bullshit tobacco that I really didn't want.
But some of your core lines, not to say Blue 61 isn't a core line and whatnot, but like let's just say the Laranja Azulejo.
Hmm.
Did I pronounce that correctly?
Well, yeah, you did it
Azulejo.
fine.
So that's made at La Zona, correct?
No, no,
No, that one's made at AJ.
that's made it AJ.
So which one are you, the
I do
crema,
the crema habano and the
Habano?
laranja with the orange. But yes,
Right
I
on,
make
right
those
on.
there.
So yeah, but going back to the Azulejo, that's one of the few cigars in our humidor I feel like that has that quality Brazilian Matafina wrapper on it. And is it when it comes to the blending process, is it you, Hector, or is it Hector bringing a blend to you, or does it vary from cigar to cigar? How does that process go
So,
about?
so the first thing we do is, okay, what wrapper do we need? What are we missing in our portfolio?
Yeah.
So the wrapper's the easiest part. Okay, we got the wrapper. Okay, or what wrapper we're gonna use? Now we got to go find the good quality wrapper of whatever wrapper we want. And then, okay, what do we want to make it? Mild, medium, or full? You understand? But what I do is, listen, we're a team. Okay, just because I own the company doesn't mean I make the last, decision. I don't. As a team, you have Hector who blends, you have Jack who's the sales manager, you have Richie that does a lot of the key accounts, and then you have my son and myself. So we all take a vote. So it's an odd. It's five of us. So the majority rules here. So if three people vote one way and the other two, and then but I tell these people, look, don't fail. You guys want it this way, don't fail. Don't fail. I'm and but what I do put a stop to are some of the blends because Jack likes to smoke milder stuff. Hector likes everything he makes,
Yeah.
and then my son's got a palate similar to mine's, and I'm not gonna do something that's not good, but we do bring people involved. I get people who I trust their palates, and I send them cigars. What do you think about this? And to give me their feedbacks and all that, and we take it from there. But everything else, like what has to do with sales teams, I let everybody do what I hired them to do
Yeah.
because they're good at it. They're better than me. Look, I used to be a sales manager and I ran a sales force team, but now that's his role. I haven't done it in I don't know 20 years. So now we have a sales manager. I let him run the sales force. That's just
Yeah.
the way it is.
Do you think it's fair to say that you were one of the early adopters of San Andreas wrapper with blends like Murcielago, for
Yeah,
example? Like, how long
yeah.
ago did that one come out?
Oh wow, bro. That was the Michelle. I think it was like 2005.
Wow. Yeah, because I feel
Yeah.
like it recently started getting, not recently, but like let's say within the past 5, 10 years, San Andreas, those full-bodied, like broadleaf wrappers, started getting more and more popular.
Sure, because
But
people started getting more and more educated through
yeah,
through podcasts like this, like yours, and everything that we have in
yeah,
in the States and here in Canada. When you have more information, there's more social media. People educate themselves a lot more, and they know a lot more because now they're trading cigars with each other. I tried this broadleaf, I tried this Mexican, and back in the day, you didn't have that. So you go in a shop and you really didn't have any news, anything. You couldn't get educated. You didn't know. Half the people didn't know what Mexican because Mexican tobacco it's not well received in the industry because what happened back in the day when you will make like for example te amo right you had to make it in when you make a cigar in Mexico, it's got to be 100% Mexican tobacco.
yeah,
And even though the wrapper's great, that a lot of people didn't know was great, everything else, it's not knocking the country of Mexico, but it wasn't that great.
like questionable in a
It's a
sense. Yeah,
puro. Sometimes puros don't work.
yeah, yeah.
You can't make a puro in Ecuador when they grow a lot of wrapper in Ecuador and they don't grow a lot of
But
binders and fillers.
Nicaragua is probably the best for it. Or
Oh,
obviously you have your Cubans,
I,
but
I tell you, I made a cigar for a guy at the trade show.
yeah.
It was a puro, all Nicaraguan. That's out of this world.
Yeah, yeah, you can get, all three parts of the cigar from there for sure.
Correct, but you have the different regions,
Yeah.
and getting back to the Mexican, it was very hard to create a good blend with all Mexican tobacco. So people had a bad taste in their mouth about Mexican, and they didn't know about the Sangre
Oh yeah.
until the social media started and all the magazines
The
and all the
this
podcasts.
particular new release, Knuckle Sandwich Maduro,
Right.
Ecuador Sumatra
Yeah.
Maduro.
Yes.
How do you think that, like what flavor notes do you think that this particular wrapper can add to the overall blend of the cigar? Like what's the binder filler and how does the Sumatra Maduro influence it?
Everything is Nicaragua.
Yeah.
Everything that I do, it's got to be a Nicaragua because, in my opinion, Nicaragua, is one of the best soils to grow tobacco
Yeah.
and it's stronger. And we like fuller cigars. The Sumatra, it's sort of sweet and a
Yeah.
combination of it got a little bite to it also. It's not as thick as a broadleaf or a Mexican.
Right,
And
right.
what I wanted for that cigar that it's robust. him being a chef, I didn't want to do something mild. It had to have some flavor. So we played with the blend a lot on that one. And like I told you, he picked the same blend that we did. And so, uh, you know, um, and so we picked the perfect wrapper that represented him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Because we had a vision when we were doing this.
yeah,
So the Habano has all that spiciness and full flavor, and this one has a little bit the Sumatra has a little bit of sweetness to it. It's also full flavor, but we get chocolate. Yeah, I get nuts. I get but I retrohale. A lot of people get these things, but
yeah.
I retrohale a cigar, and that's what we wanted. And we agreed to it when him and I agreed on the same, not just me, him and my team agreed on the same number that we did it. I knew we had hit a home run.
I feel like obviously your cigars, some of the core lines, they have a bit of a kick to it. It's like has a like knuckle sandwich. In my experience, I've smoked a handful since they arrived in Canada, and the first third is like a absolute pepper bomb. Now, that kind of thing, like that's always done consistently, intentionally. Is that so or no?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You don't get a second chance to do a first impression.
That's a good one. Yeah, no, fair enough. Makes a lot of sense. But to add to that, let's just say I don't like the pepper bomb and I'm a beginner and I want something that's beginner friendly, approachable. Which one of the cigars in your portfolio do you think is the best recommendation?
The crema.
The crema, right?
Sure, the
Yeah.
crema, but the crema is I don't smoke mouth cigars,
Yeah.
okay, and I got tired of doing events. What do you like? Mild, medium, or full? Oh, I like mild. Well, I got nothing for you, bro. Go to, seriously,
Yeah, yeah,
seriously. Every time I was doing an event, people would come. Oh,
yeah.
I only smoke mild. Dude, go get a Swisher Sweet, dude.
Especially sweet,
I
yeah.
don't know what to tell you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then I got tired of it, and on my team, hey, dude, we got to have a Connecticut. And I said, yeah, I agree. So
Yeah.
we started, but I said, look, I don't want to do a Connecticut that's just blowing smoke.
Yeah.
You know, not to knock anybody out there, but it's got to have some type of flavor, some type of kick. And we did it. We worked on that. The crema was one of the hardest cigars to come up with, the blend wise, and we did it. And that's Hector. Hector did that. And when I tried it, I said, dude, this is good, and this is good, and then we hit it. It's one of our best selling cigars.
Over the course of the years, I know I feel like I've heard it's harder to blend a mild cigar than it
Oh,
is a full body cigar. Do you agree with that?
yes and no.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. I'm not knocking anybody. I don't mention names. I don't mention. Look, a lot of these Connecticut's. What happens is that when it's very easy to duplicate something that don't taste like anything.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have two Connecticut's. You have Connecticut shade grown in
Ecuador?
and no in Connecticut, and I'll
Yeah.
teach you something. And then you have Connecticut grown in Ecuador. Some people say, "Oh, Connecticut shade in Ecuador." No, it's not Connecticut shade. It's Connecticut because the clouds is the
Yeah.
shade
The
in
cloud is the
Ecuador.
shade. Yeah.
Correct. And then in Connecticut, they put the cheesecloth
Yeah. Yeah.
to shade the tobacco. The one grown in Connecticut is a lot cleaner than the one in Ecuador, but the one in Connecticut is a lot bitter. Costs a lot more because it looks cleaner and all that, but doesn't taste as well as the one in Ecuador. That's my opinion.
That's why we
Eh,
see
eh,
a
eh,
lot of new Connecticut blends from the Connecticut, like Ecuador, Connecticut, as
Correct,
opposed to the
correct.
state.
Well, and it's a lot cheaper too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so that's what we wanted. We wanted one that it wasn't as bitter, but you got to create the blend to take the bitterness of that wrapper out. If you don't believe me, just take the wrapper off of a cigar and light that up and
Yeah.
like it to a joint, whatever, and see if you can smoke it. You can taste all that bitterness, but we had to take that bitterness away with some of the materials that we put inside.
Yeah.
And it worked out. It's one of our best selling brands. We can't make enough
I feel
of
like it's not
them.
like your traditional Connecticut
It's
cigar.
not.
No,
It's
yeah, it's
not.
like I leans towards the medium
It is.
stuff, right?
I
But still
Yeah.
approachable and
I always
flavor
say,
forward.
yeah.
Yeah.
To sell more, I always say mild to medium. Because if you say medium, then the guys with the mild,
Yeah, yeah. A lot of your tire, your core lineup, flavor forward, obviously. Do you think there's one cigar that kind of resonates with you the most?
yes.
Which one would that be?
Um, I'm gonna be honest with you. It's a cigar that I can't make right now because um they stopped growing it in Brazil, which was the orange, the
Yeah, that one I've seen the Laranja.
Yeah, the
But
orange. So I spoke to the guy about 2 weeks ago. They're gonna start growing it again. I have some boxes. I only have one size left. I believe it's a Robusto. During COVID, we got a 95 rated in Cigar Aficionado.
yeah, yeah,
And that cigar for me was, if I was in an island left alone and I gotta pick one cigar for the rest of my life, that would be it. Orange is my favorite color. I loved orange. Growing up, I always liked orange. And on the way to Nicaragua, I opened up the American Airlines magazine. I don't think they make it anymore, but I opened it up and it said "Orange is the happiest color" by Frank Sinatra. And it dawned on me, I like orange and this and that. So when I went to Nicaragua, like I said earlier, they like to sell you garbage, the shit that they can't get rid of. That's what these motherfuckers want to sell you.
yeah.
So I get there and the guy, I'm sorting out some tobacco, and the guy he opens up this leaf and it hits the in the window, and the light from the window, and I look at the tobacco, and it's freaking orange. It looked
Yeah.
orangey. But then again, I got in my back of my head that they want to give me bullshit. But it was interesting to me. So I went over there and I didn't buy some, they gave me some to and I wanted to make some blends with it. And we went back and I made some blends with that one. And regardless what Hector tells you, I made Laranja. Okay, he can fucking tell you whatever the fuck he wants. I made the Laranja, the blend Laranja. So anyway, I went back, and I worked on it, and it was fantastic. And then I went back to the place. How much of this do you have?
Yeah,
You know? But you got to play it off. You can't be
yeah.
excited, dude, because then, oh, this guy's excited. Let's jack the
Let's
price up.
jack the price up.
Yeah, dude, you
Yeah,
gotta say,
yeah.
"Ah, listen, bro, I'm trying to do some bundles and some short filler shit. If I
Yeah,
can get it cheap, I'll buy some. And that's
yeah.
the way you gotta do things down there. And I did, and I bought everything they had, and I created that, and then things were taking off, and I bought more, and then all of a sudden, boom, COVID comes, and they stopped growing it because Brazil was infested with COVID,
Oh
and
man.
then and then after it, they grew a little bit more. It didn't come out. The yields, it wasn't a lot. I
Different
bought
year, different
everything.
harvest,
Yeah,
all those
and
factors.
but now I cut a deal like I said 2 weeks ago with the guy. Then and we're gonna they're gonna start growing it.
So there could potentially be like a resurgence in
Yes,
that
yeah,
blend.
yes,
I love it.
yes.
Now, how do you feel? Because like you left Havana, Cuba when you were like
3 months,
3 months old, right?
yeah,
And you've dedicated certain cigars have influenced the direction of the blend, like Six Province, is it
yeah,
called, right?
yes, yes,
That's named after certain regions in Cuba.
yes.
And that's just an example of how I think your Cuban heritage has influenced your cigar making
No,
abilities. In
no,
what other
no
ways?
doubt, no doubt.
Yeah.
Regardless, look, I will tell you this: Cuba's the best soil to grow tobacco. It doesn't mean they're the best cigars. If they don't
Yeah.
irrigate, ferment, all that. But the style that they make it in, for me, is the most prettiest. Okay.
Yeah.
Of course, that can be duplicated very easily,
Mm,
in Nicaragua, Dominican,
mm,
Honduras.
for sure.
But we triple cap all our cigars. We do everything in two bar the way they used to
Yeah.
do it in Cuba and all that. And our cigars are beautiful. I love looking at a cigar, with the heads mounted with the triple cap. And I've implemented all that in the factory. But we do have quality control. We do have test draw machines. We
Yeah.
do weigh everything. Everything's got to be flawless because the difference between all cigar makers outside of Cuba and Cuba is simple. When you get a Cuban cigar, and what you're expecting is that you're praying that it draws, correct?
Yeah, but the quality control is, I mean, it's no
It
secret. It's not
sucks
the best.
balls.
It's not the
It
best.
sucks
Yeah.
balls. Let me honest. I'll say
Yeah.
it.
You can spend $100 on a stick
Correct,
and
correct.
it's not
But
gonna
if
draw.
but if you buy one of my cigars and it doesn't draw, I'll get 3,437 phone calls. From the guy, from the manager of the store, from the owner of the store, from the guy
Wow.
who smoked it, from the guy who smoked his mailman that he gave him one, and from that guy,
From
and
the
this
witness
guy,
that was sitting next to
dude,
him.
it's fucking, you know what I'm saying? But these
Yeah,
fuckers make a cigar and it doesn't draw. It's expected.
yeah,
People get one of those a coat hanger or whatever, and they run it through the cigar, and this was not bad. I only
yeah,
had to run it one time.
yeah,
Me, dude, a little bit of the wrapper falls off. I'll look at what they're doing. The cigar sucks. Dude, if a cigar's not burning right, even it out. Get a lighter, even it out. When you have thicker wrappers, it's not gonna burn even.
yeah. No, they act like it's the end of the world, you know?
Yeah, because people
Yeah,
don't know, they don't educate themselves. If
yeah.
you have a Connecticut cigar burns a lot better than something that's thicker.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
what burns better, a piece of wood or a piece of paper? The wood's gonna take a lot longer. Okay, so when you have thicker wrappers, they don't burn
Getting
as
out.
even. But if it's not drawing, if it's not burning, even it out. Get your lighter, even it out.
Yeah. 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 Well, one of the many variables that you mentioned that I think is like influential in your cigar making, current abilities is the N2 bar method. I want to kind of touch on that a bit because when you were explaining it to me earlier this week, you were telling me about how, you ensure that the draw after the draw test machine, everything like that, it's like a Cuban style.
Right.
But why do you still use that till this day, in your opinion? Like, what is the alternative and what makes it different?
Because back in the day, Cuban cigars were the best.
Yeah,
There's no doubt they,
yeah,
they were the best. And then when I'm not going to get politically with it, but when they lost that control, when they got so popular, and that everybody and their mother wanted the Cuban cigars, well, and then how did they make more money? By rushing everything. Okay, but it doesn't change the fact that they used to be the best. So I like to do things in my life
yeah,
the best, and it's a form of flattery, I guess, but it is. Some people do it accordion style. Some people, we into bar everything because, in my opinion, you have more channels of smoke coming through it.
right, right.
And when you into bar, think of it's like a into bar means into wall. It's like a tube. So when you're making your cigars, you roll it in a way. Um, I guess you think of here, I'll show you because since we're doing it on TV, I guess I get a dollar bill or something like that.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
very simple. You get it and you just roll it. Okay,
You might want to
I'm right.
lift that a little bit higher.
Okay, so
Yeah,
so so you just rolled it, and then
yeah,
if you get yours and you do the same thing with the other tobacco, okay,
yeah,
and you roll it. I mean, I have to put it on but now when you do this, you're getting more channels of smoke coming in from everywhere.
yeah,
Okay, and then what you mentioned earlier about that you get a little bit more spice in the beginning. What we do is when you're making a cigar, you put the cigar right, and if you're making a robusto,
yeah,
you got to get like sort of a toro,
yeah,
enough tobacco for like a toro because people break off. And when
yeah.
you break off, you fill in.
Yeah, so you start with the Toro break off to get it to the Robusto. When
Correct.
you're looking to get to the
You're
Robusto the whole
correct.
time.
So
Okay.
when you break off, you fill
Yeah.
in the gaps.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
most people, what they do is they break off and they don't know what they have in their hand. So
Okay, yeah.
by breaking off, they're just filling in. We
Oh,
don't
okay,
do
yeah.
that. When we
Yeah.
break off, we drop it on the table. And by dropping it on the table, what you broke off, you know what's what by the color.
And you know where to put it in.
Correct. So now we put the strongest tobacco. We put the Ligero right here in the foot. The
That's why the
second, the
pepper
second
bomb's
strongest.
always in the
Correct.
first third
Correct.
consistently.
Correct.
It all circles back.
Correct.
I like
But
that. Yeah.
but it stays consistent
Yeah, yeah,
because if you break off and
yeah,
you fill it in, guess what happens? You don't know what you're putting where. And if you put the mildest here, on this cigar. The second one you put the Ligero here. The third one you put the Visa here, and then the fourth one you put the mildest here. Then you know what you get in so many different blends, and the math is
yeah.
40 because the way that math is done because you have four different types of tobacco. It's four times four, four times three, four times two, and four times one,
Adds
which
up to
equals
40.
40.
Yeah.
So there's 40 different blends if you don't do it that way.
Wow. Well, that's a
Not
huge
charging anybody for that
no.
information.
I might take that. No, that was really really well explained. I love the way you put things in the analogies that you do and kind of sort of simplify it because I feel like myself, like a lot of people, with myself included, it takes a long time to sort of like I'm still learning every day, but it takes a long time to sort of continuously improve on your knowledge of what makes a cigar different than the previous one.
But that's what makes you special because you understand
Yeah.
that you're learning.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cocksuckers out there that think they know and they don't fucking know. You
Yeah.
understand? So I respect people like yourself that
Yeah.
want to learn, and don't argue with people. Nothing in life, not just tobacco. Don't ever argue with people that know more than you. If you don't feel good, go to a doctor. Don't tell your friend, oh, your friend Jimmy, oh, dude, take a Tylenol, take this. Your friend Jimmy don't know a fucking thing.
Yeah.
If you feel sick, go to a doctor. If you're in trouble with the law, go see an attorney. And I sit in rooms sometimes and people are start talking about cigars and this and that, and they're asking each other. And then when they asked me, I said, "Oh, you want my opinion now after you guys settled the whole world about it?" I mean, I'm sitting in the fucking room, dude. I own a factory, bro.
Yeah.
I said,
Yeah.
I'll let all you experts talk first, and
Yeah.
then if you want my opinion, then ask me.
Yeah.
I didn't start this yesterday. You know what I
No,
mean?
no.
I've been doing this for a long time. Now, there's people out there that know more than me, sure, but guess what I do with those people? I learn.
Yeah,
I ask
the
them.
same way people learn from
I
you, you learn from
I
others.
learn, correct, and
Absolutely.
I try to put it in my portfolio, all the knowledge that I learned.
Yeah.
You know,
With a lot of like up and coming brands, especially now more than ever, I feel like the market is, I don't want to say more and more saturated. I don't know if that's the correct term, but there's a lot of up and coming brands. What is like a piece of advice you would give? Because you used to be one of those up and coming people in the industry, and
the
you feel like
truth.
you've established your brand in the market. What's the advice you would offer?
Don't fucking do it.
Don't.
Don't do it.
Okay, what if a
Don't.
person is stubborn and he
There's
wants to
three
do it?
people that have told me that, and they they already don't talk to
But
me.
like, why do you say don't do it though?
Because it's a tough business, bro. Okay, I'm gonna
Okay.
I'm gonna explain this to you.
Yeah.
You guys have your retail shops. You got two retail shops, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. You need a new cigar like you need a hole in your head. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
If somebody comes and hey, I
Yeah.
got Don Nobody, and
Yeah.
are you gonna carry it? If
Yeah.
the guy seems nice, or the lady who comes trying to sell it, you seem like you guys are good guys. You know what? Let me buy two bundles from the guy
Fair
just,
enough.
just to
Yeah,
throw him
yeah.
a bone and all that. But you got a lot of brands in here, bro. And
Yeah.
then and then if nobody's asking you for that Don Nobody cigar, why should you carry it? So the thing is, there's people
Not
that
nobody.
yeah, whatever, dude. There's people that even with money, it don't mean
Yeah.
you're gonna make it just because you got a lot of money. There's a lot of people with money that have tried it and they're
Yeah.
not successful,
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, and there's people that approach me, can you make me a cigar? And others said, no, bro. Why? I don't want your money. You use your hard-earned money to throw it away. To throw it away. It's not a look, when I first started.
It looks easier on the surface when you're like,
Yeah,
I'm gonna make a
no, you
cigar and
you got you
sell it.
got you
But
got
you've
you got
got
no idea,
yeah, you
bro.
got so many obstacles to go through
Dude, I
from
I
production.
I sell millions, and
Yeah.
and and I didn't start making money till like maybe 2, 3 years ago. Yes, I paid bills, and the money's there, the money's in inventory, and the money's in the street, and all that, but you don't see it. And then back in the day, there was a clause in our industry. Okay, if you sell $3 million, you start making money, and then when you sell 6 million, you really start making money. I've surpassed those two motherfuckers, and I haven't made a lot of money. I don't know who the fuck. Now, I'm not crying.
Hmm.
I have a lot of money in the street and I have a lot of money paid for in inventory and all that.
Yeah.
But it's tough, dude,
Yeah, yeah,
because,
yeah.
and the bigger you get, for example, your store, the more you sell, the more you got to go buy.
The more you gotta go by, and it comes with unexpected stresses too,
Correct.
right?
And then your AC breaks, and then your the locksmith, the door breaks, and always
Yeah.
shit happens. And if everything ranks smooth, then it'd be great. I don't need to tell you
Yeah.
guys this. You guys know how to run a.
No,
And
fair
then you
enough.
got to pay
Yeah.
taxes. And at the end of the year, you got to pay taxes. And
Yeah.
there's floor taxes on some states, and
Yeah.
there's this and that, and everything comes at once.
Yeah.
So I tell people, don't fucking do it. You're better off going to Vegas and put it on and roulette, black or red. And if you hit it, then do it one more time, and go and retire and go get a fucking go to Tahiti and
Yeah.
and 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 go because this is a very hard industry.
So if anyone's looking to start a brand called Don Nobody, you would advise
Don't do it.
heavily against
Tell
it.
Mr. Nobody to stay home and not to do it.
That's awesome. Well, Eric, I feel like, man, we've covered a lot. You're such a knowledgeable person. Your advice is truly, truly appreciated. I learned something the last time when I first met you earlier this week, and of course, a lot more today on the podcast.
I appreciate you guys
Yeah, it's
having me, bro.
Espinosa Cigars.
Spin off every day.
We got the core lineup from what's available in Canada. All of it's available. You can get them in Mississauga or St. Catharines or online at smokemastercigars.com. Please check him out. And yeah, Erik, appreciate your time, brother.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks.
Appreciate you.